everybody, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia.
And today we're taking a look at some Magic decks, some Commander decks, two from the Fallout set, which you were very excited about because you love the Fallout universe.
Very much, very much.
And two from the Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which I was interested in just because I like cowboys. I like that theming a lot. Although, interestingly enough, I don't think the themes are that far apart between these two sets if you think about it.
Sure, right.
Because Fallout is, I mean, it's post-apocalyptic, but it's very Western post-apocalyptic to some degree.
Yes.
I mean, if you watch the new TV show, one of the main characters is that cowboy.
Yeah.
Walking around doing quick draws and stuff.
Cowboy
on people.
things, yeah, absolutely, right.
I mean, there's more to that. You know, there's mech suits and stuff. But in this Western set, there's all kinds of nonsense in there, too. I mean, it's still Magic the Gathering.
Right. You're going to have everything you expect in there, weird blobs, wearing cowboy boots, and it's kind of thematically, or I guess artistically, they've taken everything you're used to seeing, but now if you see a genie, it might be wearing a bandana or something.
Now, this comes from a very casual perspective. Zee and I play Magic
very casually, yes.
Very casually. We're not experts by any means. We didn't even buy all 4 sets of each of these because, well, Commander decks are not cheap.
Yes.
So we just picked the ones that looked the most interesting for the... I picked by the sounds of their mechanisms and whatever.
Yeah.
So Zee's going to show you a little bit about what's in these sets, and we'll be right back.
This is the first deck we're going to take a look at, but before we get into what comes in it and sort of how it operates, let's first talk about these wanted cards. Each of these Commander decks is going to come with 3 of these wanted cards. You need at least 6 together, and you are going to then reveal one if there is not one at the beginning of a player's turn face up. And at the end, at the beginning of your end step, you're going to check if you qualify for the thing, and then you get your reward. Your reward would be create a treasure token in this case. If nobody gets it, then this moves up on the next player's turn. And then they get this reward if they accomplish it, and so on. When somebody takes one at the beginning of the next player's turn, one is flipped up, and again, there is a new condition. So we'll discuss these in the discussion part of the video, but I wanted to show you what these look like. And again, every Commander deck comes with 3, and you need at least 6 shuffled together, and you'll be going through those. As far as the deck itself goes, it's very much a lands matter deck. It's about putting lands in the graveyard, bouncing them out of the graveyard, having things with landfall that care about when a land comes into play. So that's what it's all about. Here we've got your, this is your main commander, and then the backup commander right here, which is a whole different thing. It cares about plans and tree folk and worries about those tribes. So I'll just show you a few of the things. So there's also a little bit of a desert vibe to this, the idea that having deserts in play matters, and this is another character you could actually use as the commander of the deck. It has all the colors, and then make it about that desert walk and having lands that count as deserts. All right. So here we got this one, for example, is an additional cost to cast this. Discard a land card, then draw 2. You'll notice that you want lands in the graveyard so you can cast this very cheaply. This one here, when it enters the battlefield, you're going to discard any number of land cards and then put +1/+1 counters out. This one over here, lands that you control and lands you own that aren't on a battlefield are deserts. So that one ties with your desert character. We've got this one, which is 1 less for each land in your graveyard. Tremendously expensive and a fantastic name. Rumbleweed, yes. We've got Unholy Heat right here, deals 2. And then Delirium here would deal 6 if there are 4 more card types in your graveyard. I like that one. Not necessarily about lands, but I like it. I wanted to show it. We got Embrace the Unknown over here, where you're going to be exiling things from the top of your deck, and then you can play Retrace on that one, which I really like. And again, it's another way to be getting land in that discard pile. And then there's a few cards in here also that are going to bounce all the land back into play. There's a couple of cards that do that take all the land in the graveyard and bounce it into play, and it can be very, very powerful. This one here, you mill 3 cards, which is, of course, going to get some land in there, most likely. And then you return all the lands when this dies from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And then this big fella here, who has landfall, and he makes 5/5 red and green elemental creatures. There you go. That is that deck with a lot of lands that matter, and a commander that gets significantly cheaper if you throw that stuff away. Here we've got this Gaunty deck, and this one's all about stealing things from your opponent, discarding, exiling things, and then casting them from those places, getting a discount on spells you cast that aren't yours, that are, other players, and paying less for that, and also this second ability that whenever one or more creatures you control deal damage, you look at the top cards of the player's library, you exile those things, and you can cast them yourself, basically. So that's the main commander there. Our backup commander is this amazingly drawn Felix 5 Boots. And the flavor here is pretty different from the original one, but you can choose to make them your commander, of course. We've got a lot of cards that are going to facilitate this idea of exiling, taking things from your opponent's deck, putting them aside, being able to be cast by you. Whenever an opponent attacks you or a planeswalker of yours, you exile the cards, and then you can, as long as it's exile, you can spend mana of any color and cast that thing. We've got here exile all creatures. For each one exiled, you may play that card as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be cast. Can be used to cast a Chaos Wand here, where you pay for this and tap it, and the opponent will exile cards from their library until they hit an instant or sorcery, and you can cast that thing. There's a little bit of a ninjutsu vibe in this deck as well. There's a few cards I noticed that had ninjutsu, which is pretty cool. I like seeing that. And then this one here has, again, deal combat damage, exile the top card, you can cast it. The Mimoplasm here, as it enters play, this is an amazing card. You're gonna, and again, isn't necessarily about this, but I just think it's great. You're going to exile 2 creatures from graveyards, any two creatures from any graveyards. If you do, then this is going to enter play as a copy of one of those cards, but it has additional +1/+1 counters equal to the power of the other one. So you can get some insane things, something that cannot be defended against, but is a 10/10 or something. The combinations are mind-boggling. We've got this one here helping you with this idea of casting cards from places other than your hand. And then Mind's Dilation here, whenever your opponent casts their first spell, each turn, they exile the top card of their library, and if it's a non-land card, you can cast that. So that is what's going on. You're going to be playing with your opponent's cards a lot, taking their toys and using them against them themselves. This deck here, the first one of 2 we're taking a look at from Fallout, is all about the energy counters being this symbol right here. And so we've got our commander here, who is going to very much deal with those energy counters. So whenever we cast an artifact spell, you get one, and then you can tap her and pay 1 to give all creatures +1/+0, tap and pay to draw, or tap and pay quite a few of them to return an artifact from the graveyard back to the battlefield. A lot of artifacts in this one as well, a few cards that are going to care about artifacts and have metalcraft and things like that, but we're not going to be dealing with that too much. Instead, let's just take a look at some of these. You've got your backup commander here with Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and whenever he attacks or blocks, you sacrifice it unless you pay some energy counters, because he is enormous and way undercosted, of course. All right, so that's that. Glimmer of Genius here, scry, then draw 2, and you get 2 energy counters. Trample, this is a big behemoth. Trample, whenever he enters the battlefield, you get 4 of those, and then when he dies, you can pay an amount equal to the target non-land's permanent mana value. When you do, you destroy that thing. Take them out. We've got some land over here that's going to get you those energy counters, and you can also then sacrifice this to destroy a non-land permanent. Pretty good. We got Rex, a Cyber Hound here, and he is going to deal damage to a player. When he does, you then mill 2 cards from them, and you get 2 energy counters, and then you can pay that energy counter down here to choose a target creature card in a graveyard, exile it with a brain counter on it, which is, again, great flavor, and you then have all the activated abilities of all the cards that have brain counters on them, because he is a puppy who has learned it in his noggin. We've got over here Vault 112 Sadistic Simulation. Again, some energy counter shenanigans there. This one is going to let you counter a target spell, and then you get energy equal to the converted mana value of that. Metalcraft here, as I said. So this one's going to let you get energy counters, and you can only do that if you have 3 or more artifacts. That's Metalcraft. There's a few cards that are going to have that. We've got the Plasma Caster over here, giving it to a creature, giving it +1/+1. And again, just more of that energy. And then I wanted to show you the lands too, because the lands in Fallout have this full artwork, and it is tremendous. So here you've got one of the islands you might see, one of the plains, and one of the mountains. So there you go. That is this deck, the Science deck. The last deck we're taking a look at here is this Scrappy Survivors deck from Fallout, and this one is all about recycling your equipment, recycling your auras, and putting them on other things and keep getting use out of them. So we've got our main fella here. Whenever he enters the battlefield, you're going to mill 5 cards, then you return an aura or an equipment card from the graveyard to your hand. And whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, you make a junk token. That's the sort of sub-theme here, is a bunch of junk tokens. Our backup commander here is going to be Preston Garvey. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a green aura enchantment token named Settlement attached to one of your target lands. And it has Enchant Land, and Enchanted Land has tap, add 1 mana of any color. So a little bit of a mana facilitator there. Not bad. Certainly doesn't lean into the theme anywhere near as much as our main guy here. Then we've got a few other artifact creatures here, and just creatures in general that are going to care about these things. Whenever you cast an aura or equipment, +1 on him. And when he dies, you make some tokens, so some junk, so he does both things there. 3 dog. Whenever you attack, you can pay 2 and sacrifice an aura attached to him. When you sacrifice an aura this way, each other attacking creature you control, for each other one, you're going to create a token that's a copy of that aura attached to that creature. He broadcasts it over the radio, and everybody else gets what he just had. That's the theme, folks. Breakdown over here, you're going to be making junk tokens with this fella and breaking other people's stuff. And then we're going to get into a whole bunch of equipment, of course, and auras, because that's what you need in order to do all these other things. So there's a junk jet, and that is going to make junk, so you can throw it at people. We've got this one here, this equipment, +2/+2, trample and link. +2/+2, legendary and hexproof. The Pip-Boy 3000, amazing card. So whenever equipped creature attacks, you get one of these things. You can draw a card, then discard, +1/+1 on that creature. And that's a counter that sticks around. Or untap up to 2 lands. We've got an aura over here. This one is Mantle of the Ancients over here. Enchant a creature that you control. When it enters the battlefield, you return a number of target aura or equipment cards that could be attached to enchanted creature from the graveyard to the battlefield, attached to that thing. So recycling. It's all about sort of getting your stuff back, moving it around. And then some land, because I want to show you some more of these full art lands. We've got a plains here, and then the mountain right there. So there you go. That's a very, very quick look at these decks. Let's go ahead and go back up top.
Okay, so lots of things to look at here. But again, I want to reiterate that we play this casually, but we also play, well, the only way we play anymore is kind of with pre-built decks. We're not building our own decks normally.
Which is fair, and you know, you can certainly do that. We won't touch on that. We're going to touch a little bit on the flavor that we've been able to sample by messing with these commander decks, and then the commander decks themselves right out of the box. Was it fun to play? Did we like what the thing did? Again, this is not comprehensive because we haven't even looked at all 4. It's just, it is what it is. So let's take a look at these Thunder Junction ones first. There's 2 in here. Grand Larceny, which is the one that is all about exiling your opponent's stuff off the top of their deck, what have you. And then playing that stuff from there, getting discounts if the cards are not being cast from your hand. Oh, it's over there, I'm casting that, I pay one less. The weird thing about any kind of game, really any game that does the mechanism in which you're using your opponent's stuff, is that you rely on them to have brought cool stuff.
Which, if you're playing Commander, they have.
Yeah, but it's also like they might be playing... The weird part of that is they might be playing a deck I would hate to play. You know what I mean? So I end up playing cards. I'm like, I don't like this crap. He's playing this kind of thing. I guess I'll play it because that's what my deck does. My point being, if you're playing the Grand Larceny deck, you need to be aware that you're, yes, messing with your opponent, and that could be good fun, but you'll end up triggering things that they brought to the table. That's not in your control.
Well, Z says good fun. Blue has always been my least favorite Magic color because it's the mess with your opponent. Like, I'm going to do something cool, and you're like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
This doubles down on that. But, like, not only am I going to stop you from doing stuff, but I'm going to steal your cards. Then I'm going to use those cards against you.
Yes.
And that's really fun for the person doing it. Not as fun to pose. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not like it, I'm crying about it, but I don't know. It's not my most fun deck. I actually really like the other deck, though.
Yes, I agree. And I will say out of all four of these decks, I think the Grand Larceny deck is probably the weakest. I still enjoy it, but it is the weakest, I would say. The other deck, the Desert Bloom deck right here, I agree with you. This is more fun.
So one of the things about the Desert Bloom deck is it's throwing cards into use that mill a lot, where you're throwing cards into your graveyard.
Yeah.
And then you can pull them out again. And normally I don't think I would love that because I'm like, ooh, I'm losing stuff. But when I have 100 cards, I don't care.
Right.
It's like mill 7. I don't care. And so if you can get a combo and throw that stuff in there, and then these desert cards, you can pull off some really fun, interesting combos. And I'm going to say of the 4 decks here, I agree with you that one's my least favorite, but this one's also my favorite.
Oh, really?
Of all of them. I just like that idea. I mean, there's definitely a lot of gambling. Like, I'm going to mill some cards, and hopefully the stuff I want ends up in my pile. But
we want lands, ideally, also to end up in there. You get a huge discount on your commander if you do, your main commander if you're playing them. There's a few cards in the deck that say, put all the lands in your graveyard into play, tapped. It's like, oh my goodness, suddenly you could end up going from like 5 lands or whatever to, boom, I have 12 all of a sudden.
I agree.
I really like that.
Having stuff like flashback and all helps to pull that stuff out. And so, just overall, I like this deck. Now, between the 2 decks, though, I will mention the bounties.
Yeah, we got to talk about the bounties because that's it's a swing for the fences, and I like it when they take, they do big thematic things like that. This is certainly it fits what they're going for. This idea of committing crimes is a big theme in the Thunder Junction set, and then the bounties another thing. I showed you a little bit of it in the overview there, that every deck comes with 3. You shuffle them together. There's always one face up, and you can, if you achieve that thing, you get a little boon. It's just another thing to kind of look at, though, and I found it pulled focus for me. I found it to be another thing to be like, oh, yeah, I guess I could do that. All right, or I could just play Magic the Gathering.
I agree. I didn't like it at all. I felt it added extra work, extra steps to what can feel random because obviously the players are going to bring ones that help them, ones that work with your deck.
Sure.
So if that one flips up for me, yay, but it also could help your opponent. You don't know.
Yeah.
And it comes up, you're like, oh, you're doing that anyway. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of top decking necessarily. I mean, sometimes it's a fun, exciting thing to do in a game. Yeah. But this feels like you're top decking every round to some degree. If it's something you could both achieve, like this is a Euro game mechanism.
It has
brought into Magic, like the first person to get to this goal, the first person to build 4 red buildings gets this. That's what it feels like, except it's Magic and there's other things going on, and it just feels like a distraction to me. I was like, So and here's the thing. I thought the decks worked perfectly fine without it.
Yeah, we played with them, and then we played without them. You just set them aside. It's fine. It certainly feels like like a module. It feels like an additional
Yes.
thing. You know what I mean? And I do not think, I agree with you here, I don't think the flavor trade-off is worth the distraction.
All right, what do you think about the Fallout stuff?
All right, so the Fallout decks, we've got 2 of them here. Like I said, I showed them to you already. So Scrappy Survivors has that recycling auras, recycling equipment theme.
Which I like.
I really like that stuff. It's a little tricky because you do have to keep track of all the extra abilities that everybody's got sort of attached to them, but you get to keep your toys, which is a fun theme, and I like the way that one works. The other deck is my favorite of these 4 decks, and that's the For Science deck, because it brings back energy counters. There have been energy counters in Magic in the past. It's been a bit, but I love that idea. Again, talking about being a Eurogame mechanism, this is like a currency.
Yeah,
That isn't mana. You can get these things, and then you can spend them for stuff. You know, even on your main commander here, Dr. Madison Lee, she's got, you know, whenever you cast an artifact, you get one, and then you can pay 1, and a target creature gets +1/+0. Pay 3 and draw a card. Pay 5 and return an artifact from the graveyard to the battlefield. It's amazing stuff. You've got this, like, power, this electricity that you can channel into things. And I really like that deck. It just sings.
Do you think the Fallout theme comes strong through these?
I do. I think it's the artwork certainly helps and recognizing everybody, but the characters, and if you know the game, how they, like what you think of them in the game, who they are in the video games, they do come through. 3Dog, who's the DJ, he's in one of these decks. That flavor comes through. Moira, that flavor comes through. And then
land cards are gorgeous, by the way.
The land cards are gorgeous. I showed them. Yeah. The whole thing I think is very meticulously put together. I applaud the effort.
Well, since we're both casual players, someone here watching is a Fallout fan but has never played Magic. Do you recommend the decks to them?
You know what I wish they would have done is for Fallout, and I get that this is not Lord of the Rings, right? They did not do a full set of this stuff. But Commander is its own unique beast. And I don't know if I would recommend to someone who's never played Magic the Gathering at all to jump right into Commander. If they had done with Fallout a regular release with booster packs, with a starter kit maybe, theme decks maybe, that would be a little bit of an easier recommend. As it is now, sure, I think you're going to enjoy what the game brings to the table, but I would definitely recommend you learn from someone who knows how to play and ask them, hey, I know you play Magic, Fallout stuff came out, will you teach me that?
Yeah, I mean, I get that too. I'm just as, again, kind of as a capper for me, these are all fun and everything, but it does solidify for me the casual nature for me when it comes to Magic. I like Magic fine, and each time I play these decks, I'm like, there's some things I still don't love, like the whole you draw only lands at your beginning. I mean, we played one game where we eventually just reset because I just kept drawing lands and didn't have anything else to put out, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And I think that's a weakness of a 30-year-old game here.
Sure.
And I'm not here to say I know better than Richard Garfield and everything. I just think that more modern games have got around that. And I understand there's ways to get around that, and you can mulligan and all that stuff. And also I'm playing these decks straight. You can build decks specifically to stop that. But I still like the game. I still have fun. I think, like I said, I think these decks are very interchangeable. So if you want to play a Fallout versus the Outlaws, I mean, you're supposed to be able to do that with Magic. But
sure, yeah,
the Doctor Who decks, for example, would be a weird mix against these. And even a normal Magic the Gathering deck's going to feel different. But these both have that. They feel like they're in adjacent universes. Planes. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. No, I
Is
think
there
they're
a Cowboy
both.
Planeswalker? That'd be cool if there was.
There probably is in
who
this
knows?
set. I haven't looked. I know also that planeswalkers, sometimes when they planeswalk from one place to another, entering that place changes them.
Oh, yeah, that's
So,
true.
like, they become...
So Jace has a blue cowboy hat.
Yeah, probably. And he's got some sparkling, revolver.
He's the only Planeswalker whose name I know.
Oh, come on. Jace? Anyway, I think these are all good. The one thing I'll tell you that it solidifies for me is they know how to do flavor and theme at Wizards of the Coast. These guys know how to coax that out of these little pieces of cardboard. The other thing it kind of, again, reminds me of is that Commander as a format, it's still not my favorite. I enjoy playing it just fine. It can be very casual. It has high highs and low lows. You can't take it seriously. It's just not my favorite way to play.
It is for me, but...
Yeah, but these are fun decks. They have a lot of interesting stuff in them, and I don't think you can go wrong with any one of these. They all got their own thing, and you might or might not enjoy that specific flavor. But these are all neat. And I wasn't even sure about the cowboy thing. I thought it was a little too on the nose. I'll tell you, when I saw it announced, I saw the sort of, I was like, man, they're really like, it's a Wild West. There's no hinting at, but I've enjoyed what they've done with it. I think they're doing a good job.
It's a good Weird West.
Yeah, it's a Weird West thing.
But also it feels very different than, say, Doomtown.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess across the board, I give all these decks an 8. I enjoyed them. I had a lot of fun with them.
I think I would go a little bit higher for the Fallout stuff, and and the Outlaws of Thunder Junction stuff. An 8 sounds good. The Fallout just speaks to me. It speaks to my heart.
Well, there you go, folks. There's some more magic for you from professional magic critiquers, us. I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia.
We'll see you next time. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you, and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.